Hello, and welcome back to Go with the Flow. Today, we're going to be exploring how AI can positively and negatively affect students' writing and writing ability. This time, I'm joined by Sam and Chloe, two brand new Writing Center mentors. So I'm going to throw it over to Sam first to let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Sam. I am a senior at Lewis, and I am studying English with a writing concentration. And this is my first semester at the Writing Center.
Thank you. Chloe?
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a junior here at Lewis, also studying English with a concentration in writing. And this is also my first year at the Writing Center.
And additionally, we are also joined by our very special guest, Dylan, who works with our AI and plagiarism team at the Writing Center. So Dylan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Dylan, and I'm a secondary education master's student who's studying to be a history teacher. And as Shannon just said, I am a part of the AI and plagiarism team at the Writing Center.
Thanks, Dylan. So first off, we're just going to kind of familiarize ourselves with AI in general. I'm sure we all know about it at least a little bit. So I'm going to ask Sam, how do you think that students are currently using AI tools like ChatGPT, Grammarly, and like other generators?
I have noticed that ChatGPT has become more so an issue in the English concentration because it's taking away from students creating their own original work. However, Grammarly, I had used it in the past too, just to double check or use it as a proofreading resource. Since then, I haven't been using it as much.
Yeah, I agree. I've used Grammarly in the past as well, and I think it can be useful for people who need that extra help, but there also is like things that we'll talk about later on in this episode that can like stunt a writer. So, Chloe, why do you think that talking about AI is such an important topic for students today?
Yeah, I think it's important because a lot of students are using it incorrectly in a way that's kind of harmful to their education. So it's just good to know how to use it and kind of get ahead of the damage that it makes.
Yeah, I agree. So now we're going to move on to some potential benefits of AI in writing. Just because there are benefits and negative effects that we can certainly talk about like over and over again. So Dylan, I know you've been doing like some research on the pros and cons of AI. So since we're starting with like benefits, I just wanted to ask like, how can AI help students do things like brainstorming or writing an outline or even helping them like overcome something so common like writer's block?
Yeah, so I've been doing some preliminary research in AI and plagiarism, and some of the things that I've come across is that AI has an incredible ability to output content, and that can be helpful in preliminary writing tasks like coming up with an outline or generic grammar issues or maybe brainstorming and coming up with topics, right? I took an education and technology course where we used AI to come up with topics, but what we didn't do is then use AI to then do the rest of the cognitive load of the actual assignment. But in terms of overcoming preliminary or primary issues in writing and overcoming writer's block, I think it can be helpful if used correctly. Absolutely.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think there are plenty of benefits that we could discuss when it comes to AI, whether you agree with the use of it or not. So Sam, I know you just mentioned that you have used Grammarly in the past. So can you kind of speak on maybe how that was helpful to you or how it could be helpful to other students? And did it help you actually like improve upon your writing and your grammar in general?
Yeah, so I first started using Grammarly when I was in junior college. I used it in my first year writing courses because I was having a hard time with my grammar and punctuation skills, which I think the software and Grammarly as a tool is very helpful in fixing that. But like any grammar checker, sometimes it doesn't always meet the expectation. Sometimes there are bugs in it. In recent years, I've noticed whenever I use Grammarly, it is becoming more drawn to giving suggestions on rewording your paper, which that's where I started to kind of drift away from it because I noticed it didn't feel like my work anymore. So I think for that reason, it could become a con for other students because it might take away from voice and agency. But for the purpose of actually adjusting grammar and punctuation, I can see how it's helpful.
I agree. I think it can be a difficult line to draw for some students, especially those students who don't necessarily enjoy writing. We all work in the writing center, so I do think that the majority of us enjoy writing as a thing, if not just reading. So, Chloe, do you think that the use of AI can make writing a less intimidating process for students?
I think that initial, trying to brainstorm and figure out ideas, it could be helpful if used correctly. But I think when it comes to using it to just completely write out the whole paper, I think that's not a way to alleviate that stress. I feel like, honestly, it makes writing in the future more difficult for the writer.
Okay, so now we're going to move on and talk about some potential drawbacks and concerns when it comes to AI. And I know there are a lot that students might worry about, professors might worry about, so I think it's definitely worth talking about. So going back to Dylan, what are some of the major risks of an over-reliance on AI?
I'm going to look at this strictly from a writing perspective. I think that AI can cause something called cognitive offloading, which maybe from me saying it, you may already know what it is, but it basically takes your thinking processes and moves them to a generator like ChatGPT, right? So it could offload your cognitive development in terms of becoming a better writer and a critical thinker. There's also potential drawbacks in terms of plagiarism. AI is an actual source that we have to cite when we use it. And also at the same time, it's good to understand that AI may come up with sources that aren't real and use them in the writing that it does. It also may pull from sources without actually giving proper credit. So there is not only potential drawbacks in terms of your development as a writer, but also major potential drawbacks and risks regarding plagiarism.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to also note that the overuse of AI will eventually start to affect a student's critical thinking, and also their writing will become shallow. So writing is obviously a very personal process. No matter what you're writing about, it could be heavily academic or something more emotional, but it still requires your own personality and your own stylistic choices. Yes, Dylan?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to say is that some of the research is giving a guide on how to actually use AI properly, which we can obviously talk about. But I wanted to say that a good counter to those negative effects of AI is to get properly trained in things like critical thinking and grammar and how to organize your paper and how to actually write, which I think is why departments like the English department and the history department and all other departments on campus exist, is to give you that proper training as a counter to check AI and make sure that it's doing the right things that it needs to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I do think that there's a certain stress that comes along with writing that maybe students aren't as used to as we were earlier on in our schooling. So Sam, just continuing off of that, how could AI affect a student's growth as a writer in the long term?
Kind of similar to what Dylan said, using AI seems to have a major effect on people's critical thinking skills, which without those skills, it's hard to effectively write a paper, whether you're trying to persuade or it's research-based, whatever. And even looking at it from a creative writing base, by using AI, a lot of emotion or personality is taken out of the work. So I don't see how it's possible to grow very much when your work is lacking some key pieces like yourself and your own personality and the style that you're developing in your writing journey.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you worded that wonderfully. So Chloe, what should students maybe consider or know about academic integrity when it comes to using AI?
I would definitely say that it's a very dangerous line to walk on when you're using AI in like college or high school. That could possibly get you kicked out of the institution. So like sit down and actually write your paper rather than taking that chance.
I agree once again with everything that you said. I do think it is a delicate line to walk. I have certainly had professors in the past allow us to use AI as long as we sourced it, just like any other regular citation. And I think it's important that if students are going to use AI, they understand that they still need to do that and treat it as any other source. So, just a reminder that this is the Writing Center podcast. So, Dylan, how could the Writing Center maybe help students navigate AI responsibly?
I think one of the best ways, like I've already said, to navigate AI is to fundamentally develop your understanding of how to be a good writer, how to navigate things like grammar, how to navigate things like organization, flow, sourcing things correctly, right? All of those are things that we help you with in the Writing Center. Now, if you want help in those things, I would encourage you to make an appointment and to show up, right? Because we can help you. I think one of the things that we're actually working on, that I'm working on as of this moment, is a presentation regarding AI, which talks about some of the benefits and drawbacks, which we already talked on the podcast, but not only that, but how to use AI properly, right? I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the use of AI, right? But it depends on the way that you use it. So you have to ask it very specific questions. You have to guide it through and say, I want to use peer-reviewed journals. And sometimes when you ask it those questions, it doesn't necessarily listen. It will just provide you with whatever kind of sources, which I think, again, comes back to fundamental skills that you need as a student in order to check AI. I think that it can increase your productive capacity, and that's something that I think that we should discuss. But I think there's absolutely value in getting started as a writer and using AI to maybe come up with some discussion points or topics, right? So coming back to your question, I think that the Writing Center can prove fundamental, not only in guiding you in how to use AI, as we will do via a presentation and maybe some workshops on AI and how to use it properly, but also in terms of training you as a writer and how to properly write.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and I agree with everything that you said. I think that you made a lot of really great points there. So Sam, as a mentor and an English major, and just as a student, how do you personally view AI? And do you support or not support, or you're kind of iffy on the use of it?
I think I'm kind of iffy on it in terms of writing essays or other works like creative works. I would stay away from AI. I can see how it's helpful in creating an outline for your work or drafting ideas, but in terms of official work that you're going to turn in or like a final piece, I don't see the necessity for it. I think it's going to take away from overall agency and identity, like I said before. So I guess I'd mainly say no, but I can see how it's useful in certain aspects.
Yeah, I think personally, in my first semester in college, I was 100% against it. But the longer that I further my education and study to become an educator and see the benefits of AI when it comes to education and when it comes to assisting teachers with things like grading, I think it can be useful. And I just think it's kind of like any other new tool, that it's something that needs to be taught, and we shouldn't be like necessarily scared of it because it's only gonna make problems like plagiarism worse. So Chloe, moving on right back to you, when do you think might be a good time for students to actually utilize AI, and when should they simply apply their own skill set?
Yeah, so kind of going off of what Sam was saying, I can see how using it for like brainstorming ideas, things like that, where it might be considered useful. But I think even then that has a certain time and place. I feel a lot like as English majors, we have already kind of gotten the tools that we need in order to use it for that type of thing. So I feel like it's definitely touch and go, but I guess the appropriate time for someone could be for that, like brainstorming or trying to like get an outline. But anything farther than that, at least in writing, I would say it's not appropriate.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think, as I mentioned before, writing is a very personal process, and I feel like you lose a lot of that if you overuse AI within your writing. So today we discussed the benefits and negatives of AI and how students can potentially utilize that in their writing and when they should stick to their own work. So now we will move on to our final segment, which is our little fun segment of the week, Word of the Week. Josh will provide us with our word, and the rest of us will guess the definition, and hopefully we will get it right. Josh, to you.
So the word of the week is abeyance.
Could you please spell that?
ABEYANCE.
Can I get the roots of the word? Is that possible? Does it break into anything like Latin or Greek?
Yeah, I think the Latin and Greek will help me understand the word better.
Just give me just a second.
That makes one of us.
I think it would a little bit. If it doesn't, you can disregard it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. So like it does mention origin, but it's a little scattered. Like it doesn't have like a definitive like suffix or prefix or anything.
Yeah, that's good.
It does say it comes from a bear, which means open wide or wait for.
So does it mean to like the action of the being open or waiting for something then? Or does it not in the ballpark at all?
It's in that ballpark.
Is it kind of like having an openness to bear something?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Dang it.
Does it have to do with like patience of some sort since you're waiting? Or
No.
Does it have anything to do with just being open, period?
Yes, it does.
Is it being open for a particular thing?
Not for a particular thing. It's more like general. Like you can use it to describe a variety of things. But it is a noun, so I didn't mean to make it sound like an adjective.
No,
It's a
you're
noun.
good. Oh. Okay.
Could you please use it in a sentence?
Matters were held in abeyance pending further inquiries.
Oh, a lot? Like it means a lot?
No.
Oh.
Is it like a box or some kind?
It is not a. No, it's not a box.
I think I'm going to throw in the towel.
is it like a metaphorical openness? Like if you're in a meeting, this conversation is open for discussion still?
Not necessarily open.
But it is a noun.
It is a noun.
Okay. Yeah, I'm tapped out.
Tapped
I
out.
don't
I'm at
know
a
what
loss.
it is.
Yeah, I think same.
So
Yeah.
abeyance means a state of temporary disuse or suspension.
What? Wait, say the sentence again.
Matters were held in abeyance pending further inquiries.
Oh.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now that I know the
So
definition.
temporarily suspended.
I just
Imagine
needed
that.
like 2 or 5 more minutes and I totally would have gotten there, Josh.
Yeah.
Like 2,
yeah.
5, 10, 20.
An
If I
hour.
would have heard the Latin and Greek, you'd be cooked.
It's
Yeah,
actually
I would have been
What?
all over that Latin and Greek.
It-
I would
it's-
have.
Oh, you said
So-
cooked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I would have had it.
Sorry.
So Google claims that its origin is French from the 16th century, Anglo-Norman French, abeyance, the state of waiting for a claimant or owner, from a bear, open wide, wait for, from a, towards, plus Old French beer, to gape.
My French Duolingo streak is so upset with me. It's over like 1,100 days. I cannot believe I didn't get that,
Yeah.
Josh.
Come on, Sam.
Should have told me it was French.
I should have known because it's historical. Obviously, I should have just known that. I don't know why I didn't. Anyways,
Of course. All right. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. It was another wonderful word of the week. So I want to remind students to use the Writing Center as a resource that you can apply to any form of writing that you do here at Lewis. You can visit lewisu.mywconline.com to make an appointment at the Writing Center. Just make sure to click Fall 2025 to view our schedule. Remember that the National Day on Writing is on October 20th, so please keep an eye out for any events that are happening on that day. I would like to say thank you to my guests. It was wonderful to have you. And I would like to say thank you to our listeners, and I hope to hear from you all again very soon.